I want to share something with you today. The day of yesterday, there was an earthquake in the city of Mexico. An earthquake with an intensity of 7.1. And besides of destroying lots of buildings, it has led over 800 people injured and around 200 people dead. This earthquake also hit the city of Puebla. And it only came after a week of another earthquake that hit really hard the city of Oaxaca and Chiapas that left dead over 100 people. To make matters worse, this earthquake happened on the anniversary of the 32 years after the earthquake of '85 hit the city of Mexico, where 10,000 people died. And also this is happening after the aftermath of Hurricane Irma that hit Florida. And right now there's also Hurricane Maria that is hitting the island of Puerto Rico. There's been a lot of human lost. And, well, a lot of pain is going on right now in the town of Mexico. Make this video on this month because it was the month of the independence. We call it Mes Patrio here because it's the month that has a lot of very significant dates for us. But given the circumstances, I want to make this video so you can see and I can remember and share with you why I love my country, at least a part of it, and let you know of all the great things that we have in here through the greatness of movies. But before we do this, I was planning on doing this at the end, but given that this does take importance over anything, I'm putting right now on the screen several sites where you can donate to people here in Mexico. Ideally, I would be like, donate, stuff, like we need a lot of water, we need a lot of food and medicines and stuff like that, but I don't know who's watching this, so I don't know how you can help, but even the smallest of help can make a difference, that like maybe $1 or $2 that you have right now with you, maybe that euro or $2 that you have with you could mean like a bottle of water for someone that really, really needs it, some medicine that right now really needs some help. So if it's within your means, please, please, please help the people of the city of Mexico, the city of Puebla, Oaxaca, Chiapas. And hey, maybe even if you're in the United States, there's still also a lot of people that need help from Hurricane Irma and right now Hurricane Maria. So, well, there's a bit of seriousness. Being a Mexican person, what we do best is try to get over the hard times. And sometimes we do it by remembering some really good ones. So today, I want to share with you the history of Mexican cinema. And we're going to start with, of course, the very beginning, the golden era, pretty much black and white movies. So, how the hell did movies started in Mexico? Movies pretty much started at the turn of last century. And here in Mexico, movies started becoming really popular in 1936. So around that time, the world was engaged in, well, this. And, well, Mexico was actually very far away from World War II or even World War I. So when we started making movies, that were a bit more relaxed, you could say, on their topics. That said, until we realized that we could also tell our own stories. One of the most popular events that happened around one time was, of course, the Mexican Revolution that started in 1910 and ended in 1917 with the publication of the Mexican Constitution. So around that time, Fernando de Fuentes, which was one of the first Mexican directors, made his own trilogy. This trilogy was comprised of 3 movies that had the thematic of the revolution. It was El Compadre Mendoza, El Prisionero número 13, and one of the most iconic Mexican movies ever, Vámonos con Pancho Villa. Now, if you have heard some stuff about Mexican history, you probably have heard the name Pancho Villa. If I can be totally honest, he's one of my favorite characters of Mexican history. The man is a legend. And we will pretty much discuss him later when we actually discuss the movie. But this was the movie that brought pretty much movies into the foreground. Like, they weren't just like, oh, that thing that American people do and you can go and see the talkies. Like, this is what made them really popular. And it actually started people making companies that had to do with movies. And it actually pretty much made Fernando de Fuentes into a more by prestigious movie maker. Like, he just wasn't some guy that was like making this kind of documentary kind of looking things. Like, now he was making art. So after Vámonos con Pancho Villa became really, really popular, a lot of new studios arose in Mexico. One of them was Filmex and another one was Clasa. And not only that, but Mexican people started to love actors, and we were started to become really, really huge fans of the people that appear in the movies. One of the most important trios that ever came of Mexican cinema. No, it's not those guys. Those guys kind of come later. It was Emilio Fernandez, Dolores del Rio, and Gabriel Figueroa. Emilio Fernandez was one of Mexico's most accomplished directors because he was also kind of a quirky character and a legend. Dolores del Rio was one of also most decorated actresses, and she was well known for being like beautiful and kind of mysterious. And Gabriel Figueroa, who was a screenwriter. Now, these 3 characters are really important because they were the ones that kind of had their dealings with Hollywood, that they were like superstars. They were like the first one to be superstars. And if you feel you've never been in any sort of contact with Mexican cinema, but have you been in contact with American cinema or Academy Awarded cinema, let me tell you, you have been in contact in a manner with Mexican cinema. Do you recognize this thing? Have you ever wondered, who's Oscar? That's right. The statue of the Oscar, it's actually based on Mexican director and movie maker Emilio Fernandez. So, to all those people that think that they have nothing to do with Mexico and that, we don't do arts or stuff like that, the thing that they have been holding for years now, it's pretty much a Mexican man. Emilio Fernandez had such an impressive physique that when they were looking for someone that could be inspiration for the shape of the statue of the Oscar, they actually called him in. Like I said, he knew people in Hollywood and they needed someone hot. So they got someone hot. So even though the United States and other places had more classical kind of stories, here in Mexico, after we had a lot of stories that had to do with Mexican story, like the Revolution and Independence, the Reforma War, after that we did develop a kind of hero, and that was the Charro Cantor.
Ya no se hagan de papeles y ya pueden irle dando.
Pretty much, if we're gonna talk about Mexican cinema, we have to talk about the movies that were iconic and pretty much go very briefly throughout all those movies. And of course, the figures that made them really popular. Heard like Mexican music that it will most likely be mariachi music, and there's like a person singing, most likely that song it's gonna be a Pedro Infante song.
Tan cruel herida, que si tú no la curas, cielito lindo, pierdo la vida. Si alguna duda tienes de mi pasión, abre con un cuchillo, cielito lindo, mi corazón. Ay, 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 ay.
So the interesting thing about Pedro Infante is that not only could he properly sing, he was also a decent actor. And as a result, he became one of the first megastars of Mexico. He had fans everywhere. Every woman wanted him. Every man wanted to be like him. And he could do everything. But he wasn't the only one. If I can be perfectly honest, I'm not a Pedro Infante kind of girl. My guy is this guy.
Allá en el rancho grande, allá donde viví.
Hi, Jorge. That is Jorge Negrete. Jorge Negrete was a better singer, like he was an accomplished, better singer than Pedro Infante, because Jorge Negrete could sing opera and his acting skills were a bit better than those of Pedro Infante. And it all became magical when they started on their first movie together. But those weren't the only movies that were extremely popular during this era. There were a lot of comedies that were kind of different from the whole ranchera thing, like one of my favorite ones, Tintan. Recognize his dressing style, and if it doesn't ring a bell, let me show you this.
Let's rock this joint!
The whole Pachuco thing got very popular thanks to Tintan. And if you don't believe me that he was an extremely popular figure, consider this. During the whole Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album from the Beatles, of all the Mexican figures that could have been included in that, the only Mexican that the Beatles invited was, you guessed it, Germán Valdés, Tintan. Another great comedic actor that was around this time was the king of saying nothing himself, Mario Moreno, Cantinflas.
Al revés. No, que va, pues si no viste que si me ve el primero a lo mejor me madrugan.
Now the thing that made Cantinflas extremely popular was his way of talking, the speed that he did things, and the fact that his mannerisms of speaking, he was a person that, you know, said a lot and talked for a really extended long of period of time, but how can you say, like, he just went back and repeated things with different words, and at the end of the day, he said nothing.
Cuando usted tomó el arma con que mató al Oxiso. Ah, ahora maté a Narciso. Ahora ya les gusté para otro muertito.
But we being Mexicans, of course, we were not all just about comedy. We do love our high melodrama.
No, que no, chiquita.
Ya sabía yo que tenías que bajar, mi vida.
The melodrama of Mexican movies, yeah, it kind of was the thing that gave rise to telenovelas. You know, everything was like the end of the world. But we did try to touch some important subjects, at least for us here in Mexico. One of the most controversial movies, at least for the time, was Angelitos Negros.
Pintor, nacido en mi tierra, con el pincel extranjero.
So, race issues in Mexico are very uncomfortable to discuss because they're a bit different from, say, the United States or Europe. And to have a movie to address such a matter back then was very ballsy. The whole point of the movie was that this child was, well, black, and her mother was white and was denying her and not taking care of her because she was denying the fact that, well, she had black heritage herself. Thanks, Pedro. Other kind of important movies, like I said with the mariachi and ranchero thing, women were, of course, the meek kind of women, you know. Machismo culture at the time was extremely big in Mexico. So it was really weird to see the Mexican woman to be like empowered on in front of things. And that was the case until the woman himself, the Doña, arrived.
Tú podías evitarlo. Debes hacer algo por ella. Asco de hombre.
Maria Felix was the Mexican embodiment of femme fatale. And not only that, she was a mysterious and a scandalous character. She was the muse of many, many Mexican characters, from painters to writers. She was a model, but most famously, she was the muse of acclaimed Mexican songwriter Agustin Lara, who wrote the really famous song Maria Bonita for her, among many others. Make room for Jesus, guys. And, you know, all these stars were, like I said, icons of Mexican culture. Even till this day, the legend of Maria Felix, the legend of Pedro Infante, the legend of Jorge Negrete, they're still out there. Hell, Jorge Negrete and Maria Felix actually got married. They had one of the most tumultuous relationships of Mexican cinema. And, you know, these were embedded in Mexican culture. They're part of our history now.
Te consta que no soy tonto como tú lo has presumido. Tonto no si entrometido por el hambre de amistades. El hambre siempre la calmo con el manjar del amigo. Mendigo es y no mendigo el que roba a sus amigos. Tú lo dices, lo sostengo, no te vayas a cansar. No le saques, si le saco, pues se acabó este cantar.
Movies did started to evolve after this. They did try to be a bit more edgy and stuff like that. Pedro Infante tried to do some drama. That didn't always work. And we even got nominated for an Oscar. That's right. The whole Oscar thing for Mexican, it didn't just started like 10 years ago. It started with the golden era in Mexican movies. And the first movie to ever be nominated for an Oscar was the movie Macario.
Oiga, compadre, qué bueno está ese guajolote que se va a comer. ¿No va a invitar un pedacito?
Yo no soy su compadre. Y no le voy a invitar nada.
Macario is it's about one of my favorite subjects of Mexican culture, and that is, of course, the Day of the Dead. I will discuss Macario one day, but right now let's just leave it at it was the first movie to be nominated for a Mexican award. It's not a Mexican award, it's an American award, but it's based on a Mexican person. I'm just saying. Another figure that got nominated for an Oscar around that time was the actress Katy Jurado. She was also the only Mexican actress that got a nod to her work back in that day, and that was really unusual back then. So of course she's also one of the biggest, most condecorated actresses here in Mexico. But not everything that shines is gold, and not everything lasts forever. That was a terrible segue. With the death of Pedro Infante, Mexico lost one of his biggest icons and one of the most condecorated, I can't say that word, condecorated actors of its time. Even though I will stand by my position that there were many other Mexican actors that were better actors than him, he was the image of acting in Mexico back then, and his tragic death did leave a hole that not anyone else could fill. And to make matters worse, he wasn't the only Mexican icon that passed away actually rather young. The other one was, of course, Jorge Negrete. He also died at a really young age, and with him it was the last straw, and Mexican cinema just started going downhill after that. After that, Mexican cinema started what is known as the second stage of Mexican cinema, the transitional period, which is by far the worst period in Mexican cinema. It has some good movies, it has some hilarious movies, but it's definitely the worst one. And it's the one we're gonna discuss in the next episode. So hope you enjoyed this first part of the abridged history of Mexican cinema and its first part, which is of course the golden era. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, right now we're going to a really trying time here in Mexico, not only here in Mexico, and also a lot of countries. So if it is within you to help some of these countries, please do so. I will put the links on the description again if you want to go check them out. If you're nearby to these countries and you can send food and whatnot, and if you're able to do so, please help. You don't have to do like a huge thing, really. Every single little pebble of help that you offer is probably helping to save a life. The destruction here, it was really vast, and there's a lot of people right now that don't have anything. Their houses were destroyed, their houses fell down, they're pretty much on the street. So thank you for watching, and hopefully we will get through this, and Mexico. Thanks for watching. See you next time.